Welcome back to Whitt Acres. Today we're planting cabbage and starting the giant pumpkin seed. Pup, watch your pretty face. We got a load of compost in the truck, so I brought it down here to the vegetable garden so I didn't have to do too much wheelbarrowing. Pup. It's dry enough right now. I'm able to drive through the fields and get down here to the garden. And they are calling for rain that might come through a little bit later. So I want to get my truck unloaded and get it out of the field here. But I picked up a yard of mushroom compost. Now, depending where you get it, mushroom compost can have some additives in it that aren't that great for the vegetable garden. All that breaks down and it gets better as it sits longer, but some of this stuff can be hot whenever you first get it. And if it's too hot, that means it can be a little bit too rich to plant directly into. But we'll see how it is once I get it opened up and tossed into the raised bed here. I want to get a nice top dressing on here, and then we're going to get it watered in really good before we do any of the planting. And I have about 36 cabbages I'm going to be planting here, so we'll see how much of this bed it actually fills up. This is my J bed or my keyhole bed, and this is about 4 feet wide on all the corners here. It's about 8 feet deep there and 12 feet deep here. And we have it filled up here with some goat compost that I had out at the end of the field. I used what I could, but the rest of it sitting out there needs to break down a little bit more before it gets used. This might be okay, but I feel it's a little bit too heavy to plant directly into. We're getting a lot of weeds here. These thistles is coming up everywhere. But I got the mushroom compost here to do a top dressing, so we have something a little bit nicer to put the plants into, and then they can start reaching down into this soil. I did go through yesterday and spray that spruce weed killer on the pathways. It's people safe and pet safe. It's mostly just essential oils, but we have some visible results here. Things are dying back. You really need to soak it good, but things are dying back here. We'll see how it progresses. I'm just happy I didn't have to pull any of these weeds, and I didn't have to spray any Roundup here. Pop. But as the weather's warming up, we're getting even closer to pumpkin season. And right now, we're actually going to be starting the germination of the giant pumpkin seeds. And the first step on starting giant pumpkin seeds is soaking them in water for 2 hours. So I'm going to be doing that while I'm doing this. And then once those are done soaking, we can get over there and maybe get them into soil. Pop. So we'll get the mushroom compost spread out here and watered in so it can start cooling down before we get any of the plants out. And I'm thinking I should have extra whenever I just top dress this bed for the cabbage. So with that extra, we're gonna bring it over to the pumpkin patch here, and we're gonna be starting the planting mound, getting a nice rich raised mound there to plant the pumpkins onto, and it can start climbing down off of. You're not gonna want the stump of the pumpkin sitting in water all the time, so you give it a little bit of a raised area to start off in. What's he yelling about? Must be behind the house. Mumbles up top. Chickens? Ginny? Where's Ron's girls? There's Maggie. Rooster. I don't see Ron. He must be behind the barn. And then all the jumbos are behind the wood pile. Pretty calm this late morning. Oh, I heard the geyser. Pup. What are you doing? Oh, we got sirens going on. Our calm morning just disappeared, pup. Time to get to work. Over here with Cheech and Chong is where I have my pumpkin seeds getting started. We have them in these little mini crocks and they're filled up with some turtle water. A little bit of nutrients coming from the turtle water as they soak that in to germinate. And I have giant pumpkin seeds from 3 different giant pumpkins. On the left here we have some from my friend's pumpkin that we actually helped them harvest last year. And these are actually from the pumpkin that we dropped while we were harvesting it. In the middle here were actually some bonus seeds that came whenever I ordered my other giant pumpkin seeds. We have 4 in there, and everything is floating because they're good seeds. If they sink right away, that's going to be a bad seed. But on the right here, we have the giant pumpkin seeds I'm planning on putting in the pumpkin patch. This is going to be my main pumpkin seed. We have 4 of them in there. And I'm planning to have some backup, so we're probably going to fit some of these into the landscape as well. We'll see. Hump pop. And I'm going to let these soak for a little bit longer while we get all the soil set up. Hump pop. That wind's picking up. We might actually get a storm. Hump pop. And inside the greenhouse here is where I keep most of my potting materials. And if you're following along, you know I want to use this cardboard tube to get my pumpkins started. But just to get them popped out of the soil, we're going to be using some cups. And these solo cups will be just enough to get the pumpkin seeds started. And once they pop out of the soil, I can move them into a bigger pot. But the cups are going to help me save some space and some seed starting mix in the beginning here until we find out which seeds are viable. I have 11 giant pumpkin seeds soaking right now, and I don't need 11 giant pots. And I'm going to select the ones that are growing the biggest and the fastest. So hopefully I have enough seed starting mix in this bucket I can get these cups filled up. And then I can sow all the pumpkin seeds and wait for a birthday. But I know one birthday that's going to be coming before the pumpkin seeds pop. Hump pop. You got a birthday tomorrow, don't you? Yeah, you. Yeah, you do. What'd you say? Oh, it's flying away, Pop. Always working. Good boy. Now, Echo Pup's birthday is tomorrow, April 20th, and my brother's going to be bringing out his dog, so he'll be able to spend all day with his cousins. And it's supposed to be another nice day tomorrow. We're actually warming up here pretty quick. We're losing our spring already. Waiting on grass to grow. Huh, Pup. Birthday boy. Echo Pup's going to be 8. Huh, bud? You ready to get some planting done? Good boy. It's a little warm in here, pup. I'm not sure you want to hang out. Why don't you get this side? Get some fresh air. Alright, so we're going to be planting pumpkin seeds here. It's nothing real fancy. We are going to have to make sure we plant them deep enough though. That is a really important factor with a seed this big. It really needs the friction of the soil on top of the seed to help pull the shell off of it whenever it starts to grow. So I'm just going to make some holes in here with my finger about 1.25 inches or so deep. Pup, you stay where you got some air, bud. It's a little bit warm in here. Perfect for starting the pumpkins though. Oh, you guys are shaking. I'll have to be easy. Alright, pretty simple. We just have a finger hole in every cup. And I'll show you what we're doing here. The seeds are still floating here, which is a good sign. We're going to pull the seed out. Hopefully it's all soaked in there. And I'm going to put it in about sideways. We don't want it facing up or facing down. I'm going to put it in sideways. The root is going to shoot right out of the pointed end. So you could put that end down, but I'm going to put it sideways so it actually has a little bit more friction as it pushes up. Then we're just going to cover them up and pack it in firmly, just finger tight. And then we'll just put some water on them, make sure everything is settled in there, making good contact with the seed. And these cups already have holes in the bottom, so they are going to drip anything excess. And there we go. We have our first giant pumpkin seeds planted. I'm going to pop the rest of these in. Come in. Need a little bit more in this cup and I think we'll be good. We'll do this one too. Alright. The giant pumpkins are planted. Pop. Now we got the pumpkins planted in the cups here, and they're gonna stay like this until everything pops out. Once they start popping out and putting on leaves, we'll start putting them into bigger pots. It should take about 3 to 5 days for these to germinate and pop out of the soil. And I'm gonna leave them right here. I think looking at the forecast, it's gonna be warm enough for these to germinate inside the greenhouse. If it gets a little bit too cold at night, I can always throw on the space heater. But I'm happy to get this taken care of. Now we need to get the cabbage planted. Pop. Was that the geyser on? Gorgeous. I already took care of the animals this afternoon. I'm not going to be letting them down to the pond. I'm working on some things with dabbles, and I don't want to lose ground on that. If you want to follow along with all the shenanigans with the animals, make sure to check out the Homestead channel, Whitt Acres Homestead. Pop. You like them dandelions? Beautiful. But I got the cabbage right here, and I think the bed should be just about ready. We already watered it in, so it should be nice and cool. That sun's just a little bit too high in the sky right now, so I have the cabbage in the shade so they're not getting cooked by the sun. They are a cold weather plant and they would rather grow in the spring. However, our spring is ending rather abruptly this year. So I'm actually going to wait a little bit longer here before we get the cabbage out. Whenever the sun starts dropping, it gets a little bit cooler. Pop. Scratch that. I was going standard cabbage spacing, which is 36 inches by 18 inches, but these are actually a little bit smaller cabbages. I just checked the seed package. I can do 12-inch spacing on them, which is definitely going to help me get all these into the bed. Let's redo that. Easy enough. I just used my dibber tool to get the spacing. It's just a old broomstick that I cut down. It's a 12-inch spacing and 18-inch spacing, and then I think the whole thing is 36. So it just gives me a quick space measurement I can use and poke a decent sized hole that fits a plug. So that just goes a little bit quicker. Yeah. That's a nice root base. Got to open up the hole a little bit. Perfect. Do it all over again. Dabble's making noise. I hear ya. We got them all planted, Pop. All right, I think that's looking good. We got all the cabbage planted in the J bed. I did about 12-inch spacing between all of them because that's what they called for on the back of the seed packs. 12 inches more or less. Pop. Pop. We're not a commercial grow operation, so we don't have to get everything perfect. But I got everything watered in with a hose since we have a hydrant down here in the vegetable garden now. The birds have been pretty loud the whole time, especially the jumbos. Melissa and Jumbo Ed have just been quacking constantly. Dabbles lets out the occasional squawk, but he hasn't flew the fence today. He actually made contact with Mumbles. So things are happening up there, and things are happening down here. We got the cabbage in the ground and we got the giant pumpkin seed started. I also got a mound of compost over here to actually plant the pumpkins into. I'm going to be planting 2 pumpkins in the patch down here, and after I transplant them in, I'm going to let them grow for a little bit, and I'm going to pick the strongest one and call the other. I don't have space down here to be growing 2 giant pumpkins. I just want the best one. My backup pumpkins are going to go on the squash mound over here where we put the compost in the holes. And then I might even throw one over in the food forest since I don't have a lot of berries coming up just yet. I'm just going to try and plug in pumpkins everywhere. But the cabbage didn't take up the whole J bed, so we still have a little bit more space we can get something planted in here. And I did just get potatoes to plant, but I don't think I'm going to be putting them in the J bed. I could probably use the straight beds out there. I'd have to get some more compost in them though. Pop. And we do have some asparagus starting to poke its head out. Look at that thick purple night. And my dad came down here and snapped one off already. Oh, there's a good green one. We got a perfect sized green one right here. Look at that. Take that in for dinner. And another purple one poking its head out. That's probably long enough. Pup, we're still getting some asparagus in here. I think I might actually do another bed of asparagus and hopefully get it without all this ground cover. My dad used to have the asparagus patch over here in his vegetable garden, which was this area. And whenever I took over the vegetable garden, I turned it into my pumpkin patch. So we moved all the asparagus up into this bed. These were the first 2 raised beds that I put in. So we did asparagus in this bed and then I did greens in this bed. But unfortunately, transplanting the asparagus roots, we ended up getting some ground cover in the raised bed too. And we've also done some expansion since then. Pop. But that's going to be all for this one. We made some good progress today. The cabbage plants are in the bed and we have the pumpkin seeds in the soil. And if you want to keep following along with everything here at Whitt Acres, make sure to subscribe down below. Hit that like button before you leave and you can see me and Echo on the next one. Thanks for watching. Cool.